Good afternoon. My name is Karthik Narayanan and I am legal intern in LEXIS and Company. Today, I am going to say about the Model Tenancy Act which the central government of India has introduced and the Union Cabinet has approved recently on June 2nd, 2021. So as we all know that there are a lot of limitations for the existing tenancy laws which are there in our country now. So because of that reason, even though there are a lot of vacant buildings in our country, the landlord are not willing to give that for lease to anyone. Because if landlord has given some building for lease to someone, for instance, if someone has given some residential building to someone, so that time if the tenant is not giving the rent, so then also there is no option other than going to court and getting a court order. So then only the eviction will happen. So without doing that, the eviction is not possible, and that law is not favorable to landlord. So because of that reason, many buildings are there in India and that is not given to rent. So as a solution for that, the central government of India made Model Tenancy Act. So the first feature of Model Tenancy Act is that is prospective in nature. That means that is not applicable to any agreement which was made before this act comes into force. So that is prospective in nature. And second thing, for making this act into effect, the particular state government or the government of a particular union territory has to make a separate law or introduce this act in their state legislature. Then only the act will implement over there. And also this act extends to all leases or this act extends to all buildings which are let out for residential, commercial and educational use. And it excludes the hotel, lodging houses, dharmashala from its scope. And also this act stipulates the responsibility of tenants and landlord. So this act mentions about the responsibility that tenant and landlord, what are the responsibility and what are their rights and liabilities. So everything is mentioned. And also it stipulates that the agreement between the tenant and the landlord must be in writing. And as per this act, the central government of India is going to introduce three systems: rent authority, rent court and rent tribunal. And if anyone want to give a building for lease, so they have to make an agreement in writing, and that has to be submitted by both party to rent authority within 2 months of time. So if they can't submit that within 2 months of time, so they will be given with 1 more month within which they have to submit the agreement. So within 3 months of establishment, the rent authority is planning to create a website for getting that application easy. And also if tenant also having that option, if the tenant is willing to pay the rent to landlord, but the landlord is not buying or he is not accepting the rent, he still have option to go to that rent authority and pay the rent. And he also has to pay security deposit. If that tenancy is for residential houses, then he has to pay 2 month amount additional, 2 month amount as security deposit. And if that building is not of residential purpose, then they have to give 6 months of rent as security deposit. And also at the expiration of time, which I told before, that there are a lot of limitation for the existing tenancy laws which are there in our country. But how this law is different? So that is after the expiration of the time. For instance, if it is for 10-year duration or if it is for 5-year duration, if landlord is giving 5 years a building to someone, so that time after 5 years, if they are not planning to vacate or if they are not vacating, for first 2 months they have to pay double the amount of the rent which they had been paying before. First 2 months they have to pay double the amount which they had to paying before, and after that they have to pay 6 times the amount which they had been paying before. So of course this is an advantage for landlord, because if the rent is 10,000 rupees and after the expiration of the term, if he is not willing to vacate, he has to pay 60,000 rupees instead of 10,000 rupees. And also if the landlord, this says that if the landlord wants to enter the premises while he is giving that for rent, giving that for lease, so that time he had to make a 1 month notice advance, and that has to be delivered to tenant. And also Eviction of tenant is also prescribed in this act. It says that if the tenant is not paying the rent for 2 consecutive months, he shall be vacated from the building which he is in. That is, the rent authority will interfere, and he will vacate the tenant. So these are some important provisions which are there in Model Tenancy Act. So in my opinion, it is very important because considering the present situation of our country, there are a lot of vacant buildings, and there are a lot of laws. There are not that much laws which are favorable to landlord. So it is very important to make the use of those vacant building by giving that to lease to someone. That may be a residential building, that may be some big building, that may be given to some other purpose, but we have to make the use of that. So this law is very important. In my opinion, this is a good move from Central Government of India and the Union Cabinet. So all state legislature has to make this law into act. So that's all. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you and have a nice day.